Hello and welcome to episode 2 of Tales from the TARDIS Podcast. I'm your host, Scott Summers, and in today's episode I'm going to be giving you my review of Series 10, Episode 1, The Pilot. But before we jump into my review of the episode, I just want to take a minute to talk about something else which is going on in the world of sci-fi, and that's Star Wars. Past weekend in Orlando was the Star Wars Celebration 40th anniversary of Star Wars, and in it they showed our first glimpse of the new film The Last Jedi, a film which I cannot wait for and cannot believe I've got to wait until December. There's so many great films coming out this year, especially for me, all the Marvel comic book films coming out. But just to touch on Star Wars, I've watched a lot of the footage. It was all streamed online from Star Wars Celebration, and there were so many great panels. I'd recommend checking them out online. There was Mark Hamill's tribute to Carrie Fisher, which was, I thought, just perfect. And we got our first glimpse of The Last Jedi, our first teaser trailer, which I'm sure has already been analysed frame by frame. I cannot wait for this film. I think it's going to be amazing. I think Star Wars, just the last couple of years with The Force Awakens, with Rogue One, keep bringing out these great films that I cannot wait to see. So just wanted to touch on that. Now, jumping back to the show that gave this podcast its name, Doctor Who, and my review of Episode 1, The Pilot, our introduction to Bill, our reintroduction to Nardole and the Doctor. This episode, which has kicked off the series in almost reboot style by naming it The Pilot. I thought it was an amazing episode, one of the best. As I said in my commentary, I don't think Peter Capaldi has had a bad series opener. All three he's had have been amazing. He's going to be really missed. I'm not going to really touch on the rumours going around that Chris Marshall is going to be the next Doctor. I will probably put an episode out if the BBC confirm anything, but I'm not here to talk about rumours, I'm here to talk about the episode. And it just kicks off so well when we got our first introduction to Bill and we saw Nardole again. And I think Pearl Mackie as Bill is going to be a really interesting character. Obviously, things I've touched on before. I like how they don't make a big thing out of her sexuality. They gloss over it, and there's references scattered through the episode, and that's, I think, just the way it needs to be handled. And then Nardole, we start to see these little things. Is he some sort of a robot, a cyborg? Obviously, he was reassembled by the Doctor, so he wouldn't be lonely after losing River. And then more and more we go through this episode, and it's a slightly darker feel, and I like it. Doctor Who can take these slight turns towards almost the darker side of storytelling. Stephen Moffat, I think that's one thing that he's very good at. He takes these mundane everyday items and just makes you terrified of them. And he's done that simply with this. We started off with this puddle on the floor that turned this girl Heather into almost a Ganger Waters on Mars type creature, dripping wet throughout as they chased the Doctor, Bill and Nardole all throughout the universe. And there were just so many. I mentioned there are a couple of little callbacks I saw to episodes. I loved there were so many references. There was, of course, the pot of sonic screwdrivers on the Doctor's desk, screwdrivers throughout the classic series, and I saw the 10th Doctor's there. Obviously, the 12th Doctor with his newer, longer blue one, which I think looks absolutely amazing. We saw, obviously, the pictures on the desk, which the Doctor kept alluding to, of River and Susan. Obviously, we got that moment where Bill said, if someone's gone, does a picture really make a difference? And then the Doctor looked, and that prompted him to go back and take these photos of Bill's birth mother which she then saw, prompting such emotion from her, which I thought was just all done perfectly. And then we got more and more references as the episode went on. Obviously, one of my favourites, just harkening back to the classic era of the show when we got the Movellans fighting the Daleks. Obviously, Destiny of the Daleks is a great episode with the Fourth Doctor and Romana. I would recommend you go back and watch it. Obviously, it's not as easy to go back and watch the classic series as it once was, because it's been taken off of a lot of streaming services in various places around the world. But if you can, I would recommend you go back and watch it. The character design is silly from the face of it, but it was just so nice to see all these little touches put into the episode, but then they were just completely glossed over. And then we carry on through this episode, and by the time we get to the end, we get to what was almost very controversial, but was another little callback as the Doctor goes to wipe Bill's mind, and she stops him. We get another sort of reference to sci-fi as a genre in and out of Doctor Who, which does, again, I think very clever from Stephen Moffat. And then just as he goes to do it, and Bill manages to convince him not to. And I only noticed this on the second viewing, and it's been picked up as pages that have talked about all Easter eggs and references throughout this episode. As Bill says the line of just imagine what it would feel like if someone does that to you, there was just this slight little hint, Murray Gold's Clara theme, just playing subtly in the background. And you just know the Doctor knows that there's something not quite right there. And then obviously decides not to do it. And we now get Pearl Mackie as Bill, as our new companion for this series. And I cannot wait to see what more they do with her. I thought it would have been absolutely amazing. I hope we do get to see a little bit more about her family. Intriguing. Obviously, her mother died when she was very young. She'd been living with a foster mother. And another question I'd like to see answered, I think we may have to wait further on, but why is the Doctor at this university? What was he here for? Obviously, there's the mystery surrounding this vault that Nardo and the Doctor are they guarding it? That's not completely clear. What, hopefully we will find out soon what it was inside, what is inside the vault, what is their reason for being there, how long has the Doctor been there, and just why. And just to sort of sum up everything, I would say, if I did have to rate this episode, I don't normally, but I think I will for this podcast, I'd say this, from first couple of viewings, I'd give this episode a strong 8 out of 10. I thought it was a great start to the series. I cannot wait to see what happens later on, especially the next couple of weeks. Obviously, we saw a Next Time trailer and a Coming Soon trailer. I cannot wait for this series. I think it's going to be absolutely amazing. I really hope it's going to be a fitting end to Peter Capaldi as the Doctor. He really has become the Doctor. He was such a fan of the show, and the way his character has changed through the last couple of years, I think it's just been such a wonder and so great to see the way he's portrayed the character as he's moved through his 3 series. And obviously then we will be able to look at him in an even greater light and compare him to all of these other Doctors once his run has come to the end. And I look forward to doing an episode recapping Peter Capaldi's whole era as the Doctor, obviously once his regeneration has happened. But I just have to say, I think this is a very good start. I am a big fan of all of these references and callbacks. That makes the episode even better for me whenever there's a little reference, especially if I get the reference the first time. I like seeing all of these references that Stephen Moffat has sort of sprinkling into the script. Part of me thinks that there are more as Capaldi is getting closer to the end of his time, obviously, with some of the recurring enemies, monsters that we're getting throughout this series, and things like the photo of Susan on his desk. I think I'd wonder if they're Capaldi getting all of these little references in. Part of me thinks he's such a big fan that they are down to him, and I think that was all just amazing. But yeah, just to sum up again, I thought it was a great start to the series. I thought Pearl Mackie as Bill was amazing. I can't wait to see more about her character. Can't wait to see more of Nardo. We didn't get a lot of Nardo this episode. I think that was a sort of a wise decision, because this was our introduction to Bill, and we wanted to know about her and see her and the Doctor's relationship begin. But I liked everything Matt Lucas did. I think this may be the role he plays. He has the smaller role in the episode, but when he is highlighted, he will make these little jokes and then sometimes these deeper thoughts and deeper comments, which I thought were, just great. And I know I can see where I think his character is going to go. And obviously we will have to wait and see. And thank you for listening. That was my review of Doctor Who Series 10 Episode 1, The Pilot. You can find me on Twitter at Tales_TARDIS, via email at talesfromthetardis@gmail.com. Please leave a like and subscribe on this video. Leave your comments and thoughts below or via Twitter and email. I will be back next week with my thoughts on episode 2. But until then, I've been Scott and you've been listening to Tales from the TARDIS Podcast.